detectives. For nearly 2 months, you've followed this investigation alongside us. You've examined evidence, questioned witnesses, identified inconsistencies, and challenged every assumption. Tonight, we conclude the investigation into the murder of Professor Vanessa Hammond. Following the identification of Margaret Hale in the Iron Falls Memorial photograph, detectives conducted a second interview with Mrs. Hale. Initially, she maintained that her previous statement had been complete. However, during the course of that interview, investigators confronted Mrs. Hale with newly recovered evidence. Among Mrs. Hale's personal belongings, detectives discovered a handwritten note. The note read only, "Be careful." Detectives confirmed the handwriting as that of Professor Herman Vail. It matched Professor Vail's statement describing the note he had written after discovering the newspaper article on Professor Hammond's desk. Until that moment, the note had never been recovered. Professor Vail believed he had left it for Professor Hammond. Instead, it was found in Margaret Hale's possession. When confronted with that evidence, Mrs. Hale broke down. She admitted entering Professor Hammond's office on the afternoon of June 8th. She acknowledged seeing the newspaper article B. Langford had left behind, and she admitted recognizing the woman pictured in that article, not as Professor Hammond, but as Vivian Cross. Mrs. Hale told investigators that for years she had struggled to rebuild her life following the Iron Falls Mall bombing. She lost her husband. She lost her 6-year-old daughter. And while she understood that Benjamin Lyons had been the one who detonated the bomb, she never stopped believing that Vivian Cross had helped set those events into motion. To Margaret Hale, Vivian Cross represented everything that followed: the appeals, the headlines, the attention, the reopening of wounds that had never healed. Mrs. Hale stated that when she realized Vivian Cross had been living at Blackwood Academy under the name Vanessa Hammond, she felt something inside her finally break. She confronted Professor Hammond inside Office 214. The confrontation quickly escalated. Mrs. Hale admitted picking up the bronze plaque. She struck Professor Hammond once. She told detectives she never intended to kill her, only to make her listen. Following the assault, Mrs. Hale noticed Professor Vail's handwritten warning. Rather than leaving it behind, she slipped it in her pocket. She then attempted to destroy the newspaper article itself, but a noise outside the office startled her, so she slipped out using the maintenance tunnel. She believed that without the article, no one would ever discover Professor Hammond's true identity. She was wrong. Mrs. Hale has been formally charged with the murder of Professor Vanessa Hammond. The Bryan County District Attorney's Office is reviewing the case for prosecution. As for Professor Hammond, our investigation revealed a woman who had spent years carrying the weight of decisions that changed countless lives. She was not hiding because she was afraid of her past. She was hiding because she believed she deserved to carry it alone. Whether that belief was justified is something history will continue to debate. There are, however, several people whose actions deserve recognition. Professor Herman Vail, who recognized Vivian Cross immediately and tried to warn her, Headmistress Eleanor Whitmore, who, despite years of honoring Professor Hammond's request for privacy, ultimately shared the truth when she realized it might help solve her murder. Claire Donnelly, whose composure under extraordinary circumstances helped preserve critical evidence despite reliving the trauma of another homicide she had discovered years earlier. And finally, all of you, detectives. This case was never simply about identifying who struck the fatal blow. It was about understanding how one tragedy can echo across years, across lives, and across people who never truly escaped it. Justice cannot restore what was lost at Iron Falls. It cannot return Thomas Hale. It cannot return Emily Hale. and it cannot restore Professor Hammond's life, but it can establish the truth. And sometimes, the truth is the only justice left to give. On behalf of the Bryan County Sheriff's Office, thank you for your dedication to this investigation. This case is now closed.
Well, detectives, we actually did it. 8 weeks ago, all we knew was that a professor had been murdered in her office. Now, we know the entire story. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for every theory, every question, every late night comment, every tiny detail you noticed that I completely missed. You've made this so much more than a YouTube series. You've made it an investigation. I can't wait to see you for the next case. Because trust me, the next mystery is going to be very, very different. Until then, detectives, stay curious.